Today, we are going to talk about drawing wavy blonde hair, specifically using pen techniques. Mastering this skill is super important for artists because it can really take your illustrations to the next level. Whether you are drawing portraits, comics, or fashion illustrations, being able to draw dynamic and realistic hair can all make the difference. When it comes to drawing wavy hair, a lot of artists struggle to achieve the right texture and flow. It can be tough to get the pencil marks to look soft and natural, especially when you are trying to depict movement and volume. And when you are using a pen, it can be even trickier because you don't have the luxury of erasing or blending. One of the biggest challenges with drawing wavy hair with a pen is that it's easy to end up with lines that look stiff and unnatural. You've got to find a way to create soft, flowing lines that captures the movement and texture of the hair. It's not just about drawing individual strands of hair either. You've got to think about how the hair moves as a whole. Another common issue is that the hair can end up looking flat and lifeless. You've got to find ways to add depth and dimension to your drawing even when you are working with just a pen. So, how do you do it? How do you use a pen to draw wavy blonde hair that looks like it's jumping off the page? Let's get started with the basics. When it comes to drawing wavy blonde hair with a pen, the key is to use a combination of thick and thin lines to create texture and depth. You want to vary the pressure of your pen to get different line width so that some are thicker and more expressive while some are finer and more delicate. To create movement and flow, you want to use long sweeping lines that follow the direction of the hair. Try to capture the way the hair moves and bends and use your pen to suggest the movement and energy of the hair. You can also use arching and cross arching to add depth and dimension to your drawing. As you are drawing, pay attention to how the hair falls around the face and the shoulders. You want to create a sense of movement and flow that draws the viewer's eye through the image. Don't be afraid to experiment and try new things. The more you practice, the more you will become confident in your abilities. So right now I'm sketching out my dark areas before moving on to shade the part of the hair. Now using light strokes, I will start to shade the light part of the hair and make sure that my lines are following the directions that I laid earlier on. After that, I move on to my second layer of strokes using the long sweeping line technique. All I'm doing is just to shade in a long sweeping line method. Then I'll add where my dark tone falls and where my light falls. And make sure that when you are making your lines, you have to be careful and follow your reference picture very well. I'm shading according to the direction and movement of the air, marking out my dark areas and my light areas. And you are free to move your paper to change the angle of your direction. Always remember to start your strokes lightly and build them up with thicker lines. Moving on to the second section of the air, what I'm doing now is to mark out my dark shade, then use that to cover up the smaller parts of the air, the smaller sections. And I'm using the same long stripping line technique. Make sure your lines are following the directions of your air. Start with thinner lines to build the texture of the air. Then you can then add your thicker lines for your texture and your depth. To achieve this so easily, you have to sit down and study your reference picture very carefully. How the air moves, the direction at which the air follows, the way the light bounce on the air, and every other component that makes up the air. You have to sit down and study your reference picture before approaching to attempt. And here is the final result using just a combination of techniques like the line weight, arching, and cross arching to create the movement and energy. Here is an example of a basic hair drawing versus a more advanced wavy blonde hair illustration. As you can see, the advanced illustration has a lot more texture and depth, and the hair looks more dynamic and alive. That's because I've used a combination of techniques including varying line weight, arching, and cross arching to create a sense of movement and energy. In the advanced illustration, you can see how the hair falls around the face and the shoulders, creating a sense of movement and flow. You can also see how the texture and depth of the hair add to the overall sense of realism and dimension. It's a big difference, and it's all because of the techniques I've used. So to recap, the key to drawing wavy blonde hair with a pen is to use a combination of thick and thin lines to create texture and depth, and to use long sweeping lines to create movement and flow. Don't be afraid to experiment and try new things, and remember to pay attention to the way the hair falls around the face and the shoulders. If you have struggled with drawing wavy hair in the past, I hope this video has given you some helpful tips and tricks you can try. Let me know in the comments how you get on, and don't forget to check out my other drawing tutorials for more tips and tricks. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.